as always, by my two favorite co-hosts of all time, Matthew Sponhour and Theo Ash. And welcome back to another episode of Stay Hot, presented by our good friends over at Little Caesars Pizza. We're Stay Hot, they're staying ready with some hot and ready pizza for you all NFL season long. And we're here to recap, week 12 of the NFL season? It really is flying by. We're, of course, going to talk about the Thanksgiving Day games because we didn't really do any episodes or content around those. And then, of course, we'll talk about the games from Sunday. But before we get into that, Matt, Theo, how are you guys doing today? How was your Thanksgiving, your weekends? Haven't talked to you guys in a minute. Well, Matt, I've seen you, but
yeah, I saw you the other day.
Yeah.
I had a great Thanksgiving, saw family, ate great food. What more can you ask for? Watched the Packers win, although I was appalled that Jordan Love didn't get any turkey after his masterclass on Thursday, only to find out that Greg Olsen ripped it to shreds in the booth right after halftime. Was the fate of that bird, and there was none left for Jordan Love at the end. What was with that?
No.
Which it almost ruined Thanksgiving, but luckily I was able to recover.
You were able to recover. You were able to enjoy a Packers win in peace.
It was pretty peaceful. I guess we'll talk about that game, but yeah, I've kind of had my feet up and didn't have to worry about too much in that game for once. So
yeah,
that
you just got the sweet life, buddy.
I did.
Must be nice.
It was nice.
I had a good Thanksgiving. Saw my family, hung out around Canton, Ohio. They're doing crazy stuff at the Hall of Fame, if you don't know, like a water park and everything. Did you know this?
Really?
And apparently, did you see today former Packer Brady Papinga asked me what I was going to do when Taysom Hill made the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, he might go to the water park. I'll give him
Yeah,
that.
like
he might get a chance to go to Heggie's. Shout out all my Canton knowers who know a little bit about
I couldn't believe
Heggie's.
that. I was like, Brady Papinga, wow. He's shockingly a BYU alum, played for the Packers for many years, and his Hall of Fame case is about as strong as Taysom Hill's. I'm like, maybe he'll be there for Drew Brees' speech or Aaron Rodgers or something like that.
Yeah.
That was the highlight on Twitter by far today.
I saw that. I saw the little laughing emoji you put in quote tweet. I liked that a lot. Outside of Thanksgiving, though, my weekend.
You've kind of got the 1,000-yard stare soldier.
Jesus
after.
Christ, dude. No, dude, what the fuck, man? I had the single, okay, Ohio State. Okay. Gamecocks also lost. Cincinnati also lost. The Panthers lost horrifying fashion. Frank Reich is up there for the press conference. Like, what are you going to do? You know,
the 4th and 7th
David Tepper is going around the locker room being like, "Fuck me" or whatever the hell.
At least LaMelo is on a tear.
Shut the hell up, man. And then he fucks up his ankle. Dude, it's like you can't make it in a lab like this. It's just so I don't know what to tell you. Ohio State, dude, God.
The year started with Ohio State losing to Georgia. The year ended with
not much.
Not much has gotten better
for me, man. I mean,
it's actually gotten worse.
It's a shame because the last 2 years they just lost. This year, I mean, they lost as well. You know, the quarterback's part of the team, but it's like, damn it, McCord, man. But you know what? I'll say this. I wish you guys had been watching. I gave up with 8 minutes. I gave up like in the fourth quarter. I know they weren't driving down. And even they got a big chunk plays. You're like, holy shit, this could be an all-time moment. And I feel bad because I don't know. It just sucks, dude. It was a very, very tough loss. And Ryan Day, this is his third just not bad loss in the sense of like, oh, they lost by 20 to Michigan 2 years in a row. It's his third just back-breaking, just the worst, rip your heart out. Clemson 2019, a game, that one they should have won, and they got screwed by the single worst no catch call ever, as far as I'm concerned. Although they got their get back. Then Georgia, then this shit. God damn it, man. Air Nolan to save us. I don't know. It's a tough one. And I think Michigan has a chance to win the national title. I don't think they're better than Georgia, but I think they could beat anybody. So we'll see. Good win for them, but it's a tough one, man.
My thought on that game, first of all, everyone's got to have an opinion on the touchdown/interception. My thought on it is 10 came down with the ball. If the Michigan guy had possession of the ball, that wouldn't have happened. Right? Like it was bobbling around. That's how 10 was able to rip it out. Like I don't really think he ever had control of it. I think he almost it looked like he was about to catch it, but then 10 got his hand in there and dislodged it. It's like I don't think that's a catch.
I thought there were a lot of bad calls in that game, and I didn't want to say this in my review. And if you want to leave in the comments, say you're just mad they lost. Well, yeah. First off, of course, somebody in my comments was like, "Why aren't you giving Michigan any props?" What the hell are you talking about? Dude, they could win by 1,000. I'm not saying, oh, good game from blah, blah, blah. Like, come on. But, I thought a lot of calls went against them. I thought that on that screen on 3rd and 10, they got there. I thought that there were several holding calls not called. I thought it was a push off on Michigan that they just totally didn't call. There's a lot of stuff I didn't like. But, there are a few things like I thought it was an incomplete pass that they called a catch and fumble. And they only called that because they had set the precedent for a catch being very easy in a game. How stupid is that? And then they couldn't get any call right, and they had to go review everything. Just terrible officiating.
Yeah, it wasn't good. And obviously McCord with the early pick, it's, those were the two biggest swings in the game. But JJ McCarthy played I will give Michigan credit for any Michigan fan listeners that we may have. I don't know how many. This is not around the horn. You cannot take any points off my score.
Theo will be getting deleted in post.
Dox him.
Hey, shout out Michigan for not turning the ball over at all. It was that kind of game where I think even one turnover or short field could have won it for Ohio State.
They just don't get the breaks in these games, man. They don't create the breaks for themselves. It's just sad. Whatever.
It is a little sad.
Football. Nobody cares.
Sad existence.
If you care about this, grow up.
It was. I knew that you were gonna be depressed. At the beginning of this episode, I was thinking of you when I saw the news about LaMelo tonight and thought, like, damn, it's been a rough stretch. Man.
All right.
Yeah. Hopefully he's all right.
Cincinnati Reds time, and Cincinnati basketball is undefeated right now. They're winning it all. You heard it here first. Let's get it. I'm not giving up.
Let's go. And I'm pretty sure.
Anyway, enough about Matt's favorite teams.
Let's talk about
Matt's. Let's talk about my favorite team and start off the recaps of the Thanksgiving games, starting with Packers-Lions. I try to tell everybody about the Lions, man. They got some serious things that they need to fix, especially on defense. I don't think that Aaron Glenn is the only problem, but I certainly don't think that they look like a well-coordinated unit. And I don't think schematically they're doing anything that's like too awful. They're just not tight, like there's just not tight coverage down the field. Their guys aren't quite looking like they know where to be in that game. I don't like what they're doing with the linebackers. They essentially have Jack Campbell and Derek Barnes on like a timeshare where like one snap it'll be Barnes and then it'll be Campbell and then it'll be Barnes and then Campbell. It's like, pick one. All right. Pick who your starter is. Pick who the better linebacker is. It's Barnes, despite the fact that you used the first round pick on Campbell.
I think that's probably
keep
what
them
it
out
is,
there.
Is they're trying to justify the pick.
Right. And that's just not good. So you got a worse player out there, a player that shouldn't have been a first round pick in the first place, in my opinion. Right. And now you're like sinking yourself by putting the worst guy out there to like get him reps. But it was a bad pick when it happened, but now they're just making it worse by doing that. Just not tight coverage on the back end. That first deep shot to Watson, like it was cover 3. Like, why is there no center field player? He was just somewhere else. And there's a key third down. They run slant flat off motion, and like Lions acted like they'd never seen it before. And in zone coverage, you can't just cover grass, and that's what they do. That's the most annoying thing about the Lions is like when it is zone coverage, they're just like going to a spot. It's like you got to cover guys. You understand? Like I get that it's zone, but it's like when a guy comes into the zone, you have to cover that guy. Just being somewhere doesn't help you. So I feel like they're really bad at the zone, and then they just don't really have the guys outside of like Branch in the slot to be a man coverage team. Like Malik Heath was getting after it when they played man coverage. So just I think a defense that is too bad to win the Super Bowl to me. And Jordan Love played great. He was completely on the money, like super accurate all day, except for one deep shot at the end. Watson could have had another touchdown where he kind of faded away from pressure and didn't deliver a good throw. But outside of that one throw, I thought he was pretty great, and he's been pretty great for about 3 weeks now. So that's kind of what the hope with was my hope with the Packers is youngest team in the league, struggle a little bit at the beginning and then start to gain some traction. The struggles at the beginning were more severe than I hoped, and that may have put them in a hole too big to overcome. But this game against the Lions was huge. They've got the Chiefs next week, and then it's Buccaneers, it's Bears, it's Giants, it's smooth sailing the rest of the way. So they've still got a real shot if they can. Yeah, they've still got a real shot, and Gary is a monster, and Joe Barry actually, disguised some things and caused some real issues. But the Packers are what the Packers are. Like they're starting to get their legs. I think the main thing is you've got to be extremely concerned if you're a Lions fan. They've got 8 wins. They're 8-3, but Goff's ball security was atrocious. The depth on the offensive line is bad. The wide receivers outside of Laporta and Amon-Ra St. Brown, like still not showing up. And the defense has been the worst in the league since the Ravens game. It's like that it's not exactly painting the picture of a contender to me. And that's what I was afraid of.
Yeah, I think that was our evaluation before the season started now. Or, it's like
I think so. I think that's what we've been saying the whole time. Yeah.
The offense is pretty strong, but there's Goff limitations, and they rely heavily on having a super elite offensive line. If you have some injuries there, things get a little rough for them. And then defensively, like you can project a higher win total because I don't think their schedule is particularly hard. And I think they kind of had nowhere to go but up defensively. And they are a little bit better defensively than they were last year. They are.
Yeah, I mean, last year they finished last in everything.
Last, right? So it comes down to a team that I think is going to rack up some wins. I think it's a chance to go win any playoff game that they play. But do they match up well with the Eagles? Probably not. 49ers, I probably take them over them too. They're kind of in that category where they're not like a bizarro wild card team. They're a division winner, but they're not like a favorite to come out of the NFC. I think that's been the evaluation on them all year. And I don't think that's changed with this game, even though it is a loss to a losing team. That you do have games.
I will say, though, I think it's to the point where, like, right now, like, if the Vikings and Packers didn't spend so much of the first part of the season dicking around, like, this would be a real race in terms of the quality of teams they all are right now. I don't think the Lions are leagues ahead of either of those two teams, but I think because the Lions were the only team, and this is a credit to Campbell and them, like they were actually buttoned up week 1, and the Vikings fumbled every 5 plays, and the Packers had a route that wasn't right every 2. So like, but at this point, as it stands right now, like it would be anyone's division, but obviously the beginning of the season still counts.
They got a 2-game lead on the Vikings, but the Vikings still play them twice.
It could happen. Stranger things have happened. Stranger things happen basically every week in football, but I wouldn't bet on it either. But I think as it stands right now, like the Lions aren't leading the NFC North by a wide margin like it looked like they were going to early in the season. I think maybe they win it by a wide margin, but in terms of the quality of team, like it's getting a lot more even. And going into next year, we'll see.
I think that's fair. And I think even at the beginning of the year, you could see that, like, when they played Kansas City, there were definitely open receivers right? You definitely saw the lapses in coverage there. The Chiefs couldn't catch a nosebleed at that point in the year. And at some points this year, they still haven't been able to. But so it's like, yeah, the defense hasn't been perfect, but you see the leaps from, you see what Brian Branch adds to the defense. You see the leap Aiden Hutchinson has taken.
A leap? I think he's fine. He's good, but he got locked up in this game, like to an insane degree. I think
he wasn't anything special in this game, and
I don't think Aiden Hutchinson is any kind of.
They need an elite pass rusher, and Aiden Hutchinson isn't quite that.
I think Aiden Hutchinson is maybe like I like Aleem McNeil a little bit better than Hutchinson, and I think Brian Branch is getting into that conversation as well. It's like Aiden Hutchinson is good, but I still think he lacks bend and he lacks length, and he's got moves, no doubt, and he's got motor.
Brian Branch is a better defender on the team or a better pass rusher?
A better defender on the team.
Oh, okay. I was like,
Brian Branch is a dog, though, so that's not too much of a slander because Brian Branch is super good, awesome. But. Yeah, I think like Aiden Hutchinson is not enough. Again, like they've been an atrocious. Like Justin Fields played really well against them. Herbert scored basically every single drive in that game. Jordan Love went off. It's like everyone on this defense, including Aiden Hutchinson, like needs to take a look in the mirror because they need to turn things around and fast. Not every quarterback can go in and have a career performance against you. Otherwise, that's bad.
Yeah, they just don't have like. A ton. They don't get a ton of pressure. Like they can get pressure. They just don't. They don't finish pressures. I feel like
they need a couple of things. Like they need someone better opposite of Hutchinson. Like whether they be as good or better than Hutchinson, but like not someone worse. I think. And then that second defensive tackle spot outside of McNeil. It's like there are two good players, and then they're kind of like. Two pretty mid players on that D line, and the linebacking core isn't good either, and neither are the safeties and neither are the corners. It's like Hutchinson isn't enough to fix issues. I think that's for sure.
Yeah,
they're still building that out though.
Right. Yeah, and he's still. I mean, it's his second year in the league, and
we have our concerns. It is a second year. We have our concerns about the Lions' long-term building strategy, but
they could be fine if they like. Don't pay Goff. Like that would probably intrigue me more than anything else.
My concern is just what's going to happen when Ben Johnson inevitably gets a head coaching job.
Yeah, like, I mean, at least with Ben Johnson when he leaves, it's like there are other people in the building that like know what worked. So like they'll still have
but like we can say the same thing about Sirianni and the Eagles offense. Clearly took a step.
Are 10-1, and
I mean, yes, they're 10-1, but like there were clearly lapses where like their offense was struggling.
Sure. Like they're not as good as they were last year.
If they didn't have the most talented offense in the league, they would struggle. The Lions don't have the most talented offense in the league.
No, yeah, you're right. But I think like they still like know what works for them, and the line is still going to be good. I don't think Ben Johnson leaving will absolutely sink them like it's going to be made out in the media. Ben Johnson can be a very talented play caller. Like he does a lot of creative things. I love the aggressiveness. I love the trick plays they scheme up on. 4th and 1, you got to have it. Like they always seem to work. They get in 12 personnel and spread out. They get 11 personnel and condense and can run. Like it's a difficult offense to defend under Ben Johnson with no doubt. But it's not like once he leaves, they're going to be like, dog, I don't know how to get in 12 personnel and spread out anymore. It's like that's still going to be there. They just need a higher ceiling. And then I think the one Goff provides. And he's been very careless with the football here these last few weeks. 4 turnovers the week before, and then a bunch of fumbles. And one of those fumbles, when he was scrambling, he was holding the ball out with like for anyone silly. To take. It was a little goofy.
Yeah.
No, I didn't like that one.
I didn't like that one either. Well, I guess I did.
Yeah.
I hooted and hollered. I hooted and hollered actually.
Were you hooting and hollering?
I was hooting. I was hollering. I was spinning in circles. Yippee, yippee, yippee.
Yeah, man.
How about those Cowboys?
Oh, I'm starting to think it's their year. I am.
Are we going to fall for this again?
Now, here's the thing about them boys. Dak, he's playing like a fucking MVP, man. He has been absolutely on the money. When they've decided to let him air it out a little bit more, they were kind of conservative at first, and I think McCarthy sort of just changed his mind halfway through this season. He's like, no, I'm going to let Dak do his thing. Yeah, to his credit. And defensively, at least against sort of the bottom feeders, they've been pretty lights out, even with, the Diggs injury and Bland.
Now they got a new Diggs.
They got a new, which is very bizarre.
Pick sixes?
Yeah, five pick sixes. I saw Bland's stats next to the Jets offense. It was a little too close.
Oh man.
Yeah. So then their pass rush is still, amazing, and they're a little. They have holes on the team, but they have a lot of playmakers to make up for it. And you'd probably rather be that in the NFL than just like solid all around, but not able to create big plays. They haven't really done it against great teams, so you got to wait to see that. But I feel pretty decent about them, man.
I don't know what prediction to give them, because before this season and at the beginning of the season, I was not high on them. I wasn't high on McCarthy. I wasn't high on the defense holding up versus good teams after Diggs went down. But now it's like McCarthy, I think at the beginning of the season, you're right. He was a little conservative. I think he was a little bit too concerned about the picks that happened last year and limiting them. And there was maybe some limitations or training wheels or whatever you want to call it. And now, like, he does seem to have fixed that issue, and Dak is playing at an MVP level, and the line is super great, and CeeDee's playing awesome, and like that lockdown corner that you can't test is back. And it's like, well, maybe they are figuring things out. But then, of course, it's the Cowboys, and who knows what will happen when they're playing a team that's not Washington with the worst offensive line in the league, and Brian Robinson, who is kind of an atrocious running back, and Sam Howell, who's talented, but with the footwork and the pocket presence, like, is it probably going to hold up against a defensive line like that behind the offensive line that he has? I don't know. I think it's all up in the air for them right now. I'm not totally sold. I don't want to walk back on my original prediction and then have it end up being right, because I think that outcome is still very well on the table, but I do love Dak Prescott as a player, and I do think that he's one of the more overhated players in the league. And I've been a big Cowboys fan in the past, and I feel it, the excitement about that team and the possibility that they actually do make a deep run, and it is their year. Like, I do feel it coming back.
I have seen the graphic that, like, the teams that they've beat, and it's like the exact same graphic as the one you would pull up for the Dolphins. Yeah. It's like, well, they haven't beaten anyone all year. And I think it's at least reasonable to consider, like, are they really better than Philly? Probably not.
No, I mean, you can't say that they are because they lost, and you definitely can't say they're better than the 49ers. I don't know how you could pick them if they ran into the 49ers again. Like, Dan Quinn's still running a ton of man coverage, and is Blaine going to get a pick six when he's on Ayuk all game, or is he going to give up yard? Does their scheme work against those top teams?
Matter if they're not like scoring? If they lose,
if they're down by like 14 points or 21 points.
And I could definitely see a world where a better defense, they bracket CeeDee and going to him isn't really working. Yeah. And then we're sitting here like Cooks and Gallup aren't enough of a second weapon, like we've said for, a ton of teams in the playoffs, like the Bills, especially. And, the Chiefs so far this year with just Kelsey, and like that, not having that elite second weapon on the offense could be a big problem. Like versus the Giants when they're leaving the rookie Deontay Banks on CeeDee one-on-one all game, and you could just keep throwing it to him and he's cooking them. Like, then it's pretty easy, but you're going to face better defensive strategies than that and better coordinators than Wink Martindale. And I love Deontay Banks. Like, I think that he's a great rookie, but you're going to face a better corner than Deontay Banks, So I do still have my concern about Dallas after, it's been the same story for a couple of years now. where like they always seem to go into the playoffs like number one in point differential. And last year, I mean,
differential is such a phony stat.
I disagree. I like point differential, but for Dallas, it never seems to matter.
How about
what isn't a phony stat then? What's real then?
Wins, man.
There we go. Well, they win a lot of games too.
Playoff
not
wins.
the ones that matter.
Okay. Well, we can't know until that happens.
Wins against teams above 500.
Well, no, I just think point differential just, some teams they just beat up on the little guys.
They do.
And that the leader in point differential, that doesn't mean anything to me unless you're winning a bunch of games. Then it means something. I just look at the wins. I just look at the win-loss.
Yeah, I think that Dallas has a real shot. I mean, it's football; anything can happen. But I'm not totally yet convinced until it happens, until they show me that they can go up and beat the 49ers, because we all know that game is coming, or the Eagles. I think they've got a better shot against the Eagles. It could be their year, but what is certain is that they are cementing themselves as the third best team in the NFC. I think that the Seahawks and the Lions
the Seahawks have really fallen off, man.
I'm so disappointed.
It's tragic. They are way too talented to be.
I mean, I guess not.
Yeah, I guess not. I mean, the offensive line has been brutal. So, like,
any thoughts on Washington since we're talking about the game?
I think wholesale changes are needed. I'm still not sold on Howell. Like the Howell Rivera.
He's very good for a 5th round pick.
He's very good for a fifth
round pick.
But at what
he's
point?
Probably someone that's going to stick in the league for a long time. I mean, look around and see the guys starting. Good Lord.
Sure.
I guess it doesn't really matter because there's not any kind of solid replacement for him this offseason. So he's been good enough to, I think, get that, even though like they do have like a
there's
top
just not
10
that many
pick
good quarterback options. Like you can tell me, oh, well, Howell's probably not going to win Washington the Super Bowl. And it's like, okay, old take, buddy. But like, what would you do? Just keep drafting guys like every single year. I don't know. It's tough.
I feel
like
that doesn't work.
Howell's shown enough this year to get a shot. And I mean, I feel that way about Jordan Love.
He's
and if I feel that way
too.
Yeah, if I feel that way about Jordan Love, I kind of have to feel that way about Sam Howell. I think he's still super. I think like anything could happen on any play. The consistency and the risk that a big negative sack is about to happen is far, far too high right now. But he's not the biggest issue. I don't like their running. Their entire running game right now, the vision of their backs, bad. Their offensive line, bad.
Their backs are really rough, man.
Their edge rushing, obviously, is
dude
could not be worse.
And that was just
that's their own doing.
So pointing the finger at Howell, I guess, is unfair. Like they need new corners, they need new edges, they need new backs, they need a new line.
It's not that they're in one of those positions where it's like the way forward is not like, well, just do this and this and this and you'll make the playoffs next year. It's more like you kind of just got to start hitting on draft picks and you got to go into every draft and just make every pick count and build the thing out the right way.
Ideally starting with last draft, but
yeah, ideally starting maybe even 5 drafts ago and then they'd be really good. But it just comes down to, I think there's a talent deficiency on the team. I think
they've got to fire Rivera. I just don't. He's been in charge not only as the head coach, but as a decision maker in the team in general. And like Forbes was an inexcusable pick, and all the issues that I just described with the edge rushing problems and the line problems, and it's just time for a fresh start. There's just not. It's just such an untalented roster, and in terms of development, like what young players have really taken a leap. Like Dotson, I would say, has been disappointing. Like McLaurin hasn't had an 100-yard game in a long time now. It just kind of seems to have
Ron
stagnated in all places. He was a good dude.
Sadly,
he was a good guy.
That doesn't keep you around.
Shout out my
as
boy.
an NFL
That's my head coach.
Yeah, I think
yeah,
I'd
I
rather
don't
look
disagree.
elsewhere in terms of
So,
Despite him being my boy, yeah, I probably agree.
so hypothetically, they fire Rivera. Would you say Bieniemy has done enough to earn him the head coaching job? Because that was the theory for why he came to Washington in the first place.
Well, he's definitely done some good things. Howell is near the top of the league, if not at the top of the league in passing yards. And it's not easy to take a 5th round pick and do that. Bieniemy is throw maxing. Their pass rate is one of the highest in the league, despite the bad offensive line and the young quarterback. But like, if you can do that and to maintain some level of success, like you're that's like the most successful way to build a team.
Where do you think Sam Howell ranks in yards per pass attempt?
Per pass attempt?
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere in the middle. I'm gonna say not elite, not terrible. I'm gonna say like 15th.
22.
I don't know if he's done enough, to be honest. Hearing that stat and watching the film, like they are, he is
and
fit.
that's not taking into account the fact that he is going to like break the record for sacks in a year. And I understand the blocking is not good, but like,
what is the record?
I just feel like if Bieniemy with all of his legal issues, and they are pretty extensive, like that is something that has to be taken into account. If his work as the offensive coordinator in Kansas City wasn't enough to overcome them, I don't know if his work in Washington, where they are currently leading, a bottom 10 team in the league, and it's not like the offense is any kind of elite unit. I don't think, and I think it's a pretty safe bet, and the argument is if it's fair or not, that he is not going to get many looks as a head coach this offseason. And if they were to fire Rivera, are you promoting Bieniemy? I don't know. I guess it depends on who else you can get.
Yeah, I was like, do you think
he's certainly a candidate for the job, but whether you look at the college ranks, if you go dip into Georgia again, I like what Bobo has done there. Like when I watch their offense, I'm like, that's a really well designed passing offense that they've got down in Georgia, and they just hired Monken, and he's having a ton of success. Like from that same thing, like it's a copycat league. Could you do something like that again? I might look into that. I might look into Ben Johnson. Like who knows? But I'm not totally sold on Bieniemy yet. He is throw maxing, which is nice, but I mean, Washington's offense is currently 22nd in the league. I might look at Raheem Morris too as a head coaching candidate. With the ingredients, a lot of good
candidates this year.
With the ingredients that he was given to work with, like my challenge to everybody before the season was like name 3 Rams defenders. It's like Aaron Donald, and then it's it really looks like they only had 1 or 2 starters out there, and for them to be a pretty average defense this year, I really think that is quite the feat. There's
quite a few defensive coordinators that are going to make a case for head coaching jobs. Schwartz, I think Flores has done a great job with the Vikings this year, but I don't know if teams are going to, be willing to bring him back to be a head coach again. And then, the Rams, and then Ben Johnson, as far as offensive guys goes, there's definitely some guys available. And if you think those guys are better suited as head coaches than Bieniemy, then it's just a matter of, do they want to coach Washington?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm glad I'm not the one who has to make the decision. I feel like the offense in Washington isn't that good though. So I don't know if it could be designed better. That's the thing. It's like, could someone else do a better job? I don't know with the limitations with the personnel that they have. I don't know, but it's not like the results are necessarily unbelievable, despite how many yards Sam Howell has gotten. I mean, he throws it.
I think it's just a product of him like throwing it a lot.
Yeah.
In fact, I know it is. He just throws it a lot, man.
Does he lead the league in interceptions?
No.
No,
And I
give
guess
Bieniemy
like
the-
a fifth round pick, throwing it a lot and having it not be a total disaster is good. Like throwing it a lot is maybe what they need to do because again, their backs are just a terrible situation. So Bieniemy is certainly doing a good job, but I just might want a clean start of just everything, like everything in Washington. Like
Sam Howell leads the league in completions, attempts, yards, picks, sacks, and sack yards.
Yeah, they're just throwing it a lot.
that's
man.
like the LeBron. That's like the LeBron 2016 Finals graphic. Leads everyone and everything.
Not touchdowns though. Not touchdowns. So he's got 18, which is like he's got more touchdowns than picks, but still. Yeah, it's the 55 sacks, and he's 21 away from the record.
Jesus Christ, man.
That worries me.
That is a insane number. Good Lord.
55 sacks through what, 10? That's not even counting today. He got sacked 4 times today, so he's been
Howell
sacked
did?
50.
That's crazy.
Or not today.
That's chilling at home.
Not today on Thanksgiving.
Special talent.
They came crashing through the window. Got his ass.
Yeah, man. On his couch, just.
Yeah, it's a lot. So I don't know. I think there are candidates that would probably make me feel better than Bieniemy, but I guess I don't know.
Yeah, I guess that's fair.
This episode of Stay Hot is brought to you by Prize Picks. With the basketball season here, you can now pick combo projections across football and basketball from the Specials League, a league created specifically for combo projections that includes 2 or more players from different sports or leagues. For example, LaMelo Ball plus Jonathan Mingo at a 10.5 combo of 3-pointers made plus reception, something like that. Prize Picks even offers a reboot policy so that your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. For football and basketball games, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and does not return in the second, that player is rebooted. And Prize Picks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with this injury insurance policy. So go to prizepicks.com/stayhot and use code STAYHOT for a first deposit match up to $100. That means if you put in 50, they'll give you another 50. You'll have 100 in your account. You could put up 99 and they'll give you another 99. It's just up to 100. So it's a great deal. Go to prizepicks.com/stayhot. Use code STAYHOT for that first deposit match. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy.
What other game was there? Oh, 49ers.
Seahawks. Yeah.
And we were like, yeah, the Seahawks have struggled, man. They were in great shape to, potentially win this division, to be considered a contender. And how many have they lost straight now? 3?
It's either right? 2 or 3 because they beat Washington pretty recently. But they've lost a couple of their last.
Yeah, they beat Washington, but they've lost 3 of their last 4 again. They got crushed by Baltimore.
Got crushed by San Francisco.
And they got crushed by San Francisco.
I mean, they just don't look like any kind of contender right now. And they needed to beat the Rams.
Yeah.
And they failed to do that. And now it's just in this brutal stretch. And I mean, there's a very real possibility that they get the brakes beaten off of them these next 3 games, just like they did versus Baltimore and San Francisco. Their line, as we've talked about, is much maligned and is getting their teeth kicked in, every single one of them. And yeah, Pete Carroll talked about guys getting maximized, and like they had Lockett running a pick for DK Metcalf. Like Lockett was kind of the one to kind of throw his body in there and like open up space. You know how people do with picks. And it's like, why is Lockett running that instead of, DK or stuff like that? It's kind of the buttons they're pushing seem a bit out of whack right now. Like last game, Geno has the bum shoulder and they're running a bunch of outbreakers. It's like you're forcing him to make these long throws. And I get that Fred Warner is in the middle of the field, but like I could tell you, like that's still not like I'd still probably rather take my chances on different types of throws than the ones they were making. And he's banged up and hasn't been sharp, and really no aspect of the offense looks sharp right now. So Shane Waldron has got to really lock in here and find a way to get a more cohesive offense, because there is talent there. And then on the defensive side of the ball, again, they are talented. I mean, they on paper it looks so good, but Bobby Wagner got the red dot on him in coverage, like especially at the beginning of that game. Like they really were able to expose him. It's tough to have a liability out there like that at the linebacker core when you're playing San Francisco. And the run defense is still like Leonard Williams has been a good addition for sure, but everybody else is not as strong. Boy, Amafe has been a revelation as a pass rusher, but it just is a lot of they're not executing well. Like we saw this, it's the same team as last year. It's the same coaches. It's the same players, just plus Jackson Smith and Jigba. Like it should be all good, but they're just not executing the way they should.
Yeah. Gino hasn't been the most.
And the people around Gino. Yeah. No one's been as good.
All their players I think JSN could be really hurting them.
And I think JSN could be utilized a lot better. Dude, that's another guy.
It really kills me. It's like they don't want to get him involved in the regular offense. They want to have plays where they're like, this is a JSN screen. And it's like, man, that's not how you use him, And he's just not out there enough. I 100% agree.
And it feels like it should be easy, just like be an 11 personnel team. And just like call 11 personnel plays. But it feels like they want to be 12. It's like they want Fant out there and Parkinson. And last year they were super successful with a lot of tight ends on the field. If you look at the numbers, they were just brilliant with a ton of tight ends on the field. But it's like, why did you draft JSN? It's like you can't live in that world and draft JSN and unless he's just supposed to sit on the bench this year like he's Jordan Love behind Aaron Rodgers' Tyler Lockett, that's not really how receivers
he's the Lockett replacement
work. It's like, this is your window. Like if you're going to draft a third wide receiver, have three wide receivers working cohesively on the field together. And it feels like that's just completely lacking from the offense. So again, it's like buttons being pushed, it's out of whack. And then as far as the 49ers go, they're good. And I feel like Steve Wilkes and the defense has been a lot better since the bye. They're mugging up A-gaps more. I think their pass rush paths have been noticeably better. I think every 49ers fan would probably agree and has felt that difference. Boundary corners actually played a great game. That's not always been the case in San Francisco.
Travarius
but
Ward
those guys balled out, and Ambry Thomas
put on a masterclass, man.
Yeah.
Every chance he had against DK on the outside, just completely blanketed. Good Lord.
Yeah, so I don't have too much to say about the 49ers, man.
They're right there.
It's very much business as usual. We're just
if they stay healthy and Brock plays well in the playoffs, they're as good as anyone. So
let's talk about the Sunday games. I want to skip the Black Friday game. Tim Boyle's no good. Look at the college stats.
Hey, get Matt Corral in there, man.
Seriously, man, sign him off the street. He cannot. Sure, I'm down. Someone else. I don't know why they start him over Simeon. Simeon's better than he is. I better see Simeon out there next week. But that's all I really have to say about that game. It sucks that Jalen Phillips got hurt. That guy was a monster, and that's a big blow. And outside of that, though, Steph Curry makes you believe that you can do anything. I mean, look at me. He has me believing that I can shoot threes when I play pickup basketball. And the Curry 11s are specifically designed with ultimate bounce, grip, and stability to allow everyone to do their thing. New generations of ball players are coming up and showing the basketball world that the old rules do not apply. The future is exciting, fast, positive, and hungry. This NBA season, rock your favorite player and rep his shoes on and off the court. The Curry 11s are perfect for both the committed and casual ballers. The UA Warp Tech makes the shoe feel like it was designed for your feet, locked in no matter what you do on the court. Stop in your tracks with dual density UA flow cushioning and traction, an emergency brake that you don't even notice. Steph's 11th signature shoe steps into the second decade of his sneaker career, pulling colorway inspiration from the wonders of a positive and modernized future on and off the court. Take these kicks with you when you leave the scrimmage and rep UA wherever you go. Do your thing. Change the game. The Curry 11 Future Curry is available now at currybrand.com.
The only game probably worth talking about from the early window of the Sunday games is Jags Texans, a game that was pretty much a playoff game, battle for the AFC South. And
it wasn't lose or go home. It was a battle for first in the division.
Yeah. And I mean, whoever won this game, the Jags still could have ended up. This was the Texans' chance to take control, I should say.
Yes.
More so than anything else. But the Jags were able to get it done. Here's what I want to know. Last play for the Texans, 4th and 12. Are you sending the kicker out to kick a 58-yard field goal? Or are you sending Stroud back out there to try and pick up that first down?
I'm sending Stroud out.
I'm kicking.
That guy's career long is 49, bro. He's 0 of 4. I'm putting it in Stroud's hands, dog. I felt like there was about a 0% chance that field goal was splitting the uprights when he trotted out there. But I guess it got close, so maybe
he was a foot off. So
maybe that's.
We got Ryan Day over here.
Yeah, I was going to make the exact same joke, and I just wanted to hold back. You're funny, man.
Ryan Day would punt.
Ryan Day would find an even more heartbreaking way to lose the game. I'm sure.
We got to dial up that end. You got to take it out of Stroud's hands and the kicker's hands. It's like we got to dial up an end around.
He'd call an end around or some bullshit, man. I don't know. I can't blame him for that one, dude. It was like 4th and 17, if I'm not mistaken, right?
It was 12. It was 4th and 12.
Oh, okay.
4th and 12.
I thought it was 4th and 17 for some reason.
Maybe it was 4th and 17.
I can see because there were a couple of plays where Stroud was. There were a couple of plays where Stroud was really running around back there, but
it was the whole game.
Oh, I mean, yeah, but to me, it felt like
it was
the
4th
whole
and 12.
game. The Texans were trying to get it all at once. Like there was never
kind of working too, low key.
It was kind of working.
They had some huge plays. They had tons of explosives.
They also had some big negatives where I'm like, man, if they were just more willing to just inch their way down the field, take it 4, 5, 7, 8 yards at a time instead of 20. Like then maybe Stroud wouldn't be back there. Like, why is no one open? It's like because everyone's 20 yards down the field.
It did kind of feel like the 2020 Super Bowl or 2021 Super Bowl, I should say, with Mahomes versus the Bucks. Not quite the insane kinds of highs and lows, but Stroud was running all over the place that game. That was like it's almost funny that we were wondering, can Stroud create out of structure? Because that game was almost 100% out of structure. Josh Allen was wreaking havoc the entire game. He was on one. He was looking like the premier edge rusher that the Jaguars so badly need to be a Super Bowl winner. So that was good to see. And the secondary was weak, and they were getting kind of dunked on all game without Tyson Campbell out there. So it was extremely crucial that Josh Allen picked up the slack, because without that, they absolutely would have lost, and Tank Dell would have mossed about 5 people at his 5'8" size if that wasn't the case. So it was a great game, and it's exciting that those two quarterbacks are in the same division. They both, I thought, played very well. Just at the end of the day, I feel like the Jaguars defense and Josh Allen was the X factor and the guy who made the difference. Like, they were able to kind of come up with the stops and create those big negatives at the end.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. It was a great one. I don't have as much to add about this one. I didn't catch the whole thing.
Jaguars Texans being like an exciting rivalry for the next decade is so weird. That's all I got to say. And it's
that's it'd be a new one. I'll say
it's
that much.
it's kind of it's just strange when perennial bottom feeders like get good, and I guess it becomes normal pretty quickly. Like it wasn't that long ago that the Bills were a joke, and it just has you wondering like what current terrible team is going to be like look like a powerhouse here in the next few years. Like the possibilities are endless.
The Panthers.
The Panthers are a bit behind the 8 ball.
Yeah, this is 2 shots at my teams this episode, by the way.
They're 1-10, bro. They should. There may be more coming.
That was not a shot. It was a
I
legitimate-
can't stand that team at all. I don't care. Like,
Did you watch
dude,
a second of that game today?
Nope. Why would
Yeah.
I guess what? I know what's happening. I dude, is there any questions? Like, I'm gonna see the exact
I
same
already saw the
clips
game.
posted every. There's no point in having like beat reporters for the Panthers. There's gonna be the same shit every week for the rest of the year. It's like, here's a clip of Bryce Young getting sacked immediately. Here's a screen that didn't work
The
at all.
4-man rush Twitter account on.
It's like, all right, yeah.
The screen at the
Here's-
last play was
Here's
so
Frank Reich.
comical.
You know, Frank Reich.
Do you think Frank Reich should be fired? By the way,
Sure.
sure. I feel the same way. Might as well.
Sure.
Dude, look, here's the thing.
He's
I
not
don't
fixing
hate-
it.
I don't hate Frank Reich. I have like no hate in my heart for him whatsoever. Like his press conference today where he was like, I don't know, man. All right, I feel you, dude. Like this is tough.
He had a good quote where he said, "We have the guys needed to win a football game." It's like, whew.
He's
Good.
right. We have the guys needed to win a football game. 1-16 coming up, buddy. It's just like,
Dude, fuck the
I'm
Panthers.
sure-
Marvin
look-
Harrison is going to be a Bear.
it sucks,
And
dude.
it's your
but
fault.
Here's what I know. I know for a fact if they hadn't made the trade for Bryce, they would not be bad enough to have that pick. And I'll never be able to prove it. I'll never be like, no, people, no, it would have been. No, dude, they wouldn't have been.
Could have just given
They
Matt
would have run
Corral
it
a
back
shot.
with Darnold or Andy Dalton, whoever the hell, and they would have had DJ Moore and they would have found a way to win like 4 games. And it would have sucked. Or 5 games. They would have had the 9th overall pick. And the
Derek-
Hornets do
Derek
the
Brown
same
and-
bullshit somehow. I don't know how
Derek Brown
both
and
these
Jalen
teams-
Carter carrying them to 5 wins.
You know, and butterfly effect, nobody gets hurt. Who knows? So Frank Reich, I have nothing against him, but like, I don't think he wants to be here after this year, right? Like, he probably wants the.
Dude, he could be chilling with his grandkids. Like,
That's what I would do. I would
Instead
chill
he's
with Frank
coaching
Reich's
football.
grandkids instead of doing this. If I was Frank Reich,
And you could say the same thing about Belichick, man.
Belichick.
the other
I don't-
noon
yeah.
game. The other noon game, Desmond Ritter took the lead in the. Matt just stood up.
I've got one
For those
thing.
for those listening, a big suit just magically appeared on Matt,
Fellas.
and a glass of champagne is in his hand. and
Fellas.
he's looking very sharp.
It was glorious when he had his best play of his career so far. I think fair to say that was a money
Yeah.
throw.
It
with
was very
pressure in
good.
his face, and he did it to a fantasy relevant player. Thank the Lord. Twitter cared because it was to Bijan. I love it. Bijan got more credit than Ritter, even though I thought the throw on that was ridiculous in my opinion.
It was.
But I'll take it, man. And he got the win at home, no less. Beautiful. Love
And
it.
The
it's
Saints-
really
not
Arthur
his greatest
Smith's
game,
job. For at
The
least
Saints
one
were
more week.
trolling in this game. 5 field goals there. I guess I got to cut him some slack because Michael Thomas got hurt, and then Olave got a concussion, and then Shaheed got hurt. It's tough to cook with Lynn Bowden and Joanne Johnson as your best 2 options out there. But to continually drive down the field at all was, I guess, a success. But they just could not punch it in the end zone, and that's been the case with Derek Carr for such a long time. And I guess he's just not aggressive enough, or just not willing to take those tight window shots when things get tighter. Maybe I should do a full film study on like why they cannot punch it in. But you know, the story of this game, the Ritter did have that throw, but they ran it 43 times, I believe. It was Arthur Smith's dream game, kind of a rough game from the Saints offensive front. You know, on the first touchdown, I believe it was, to that Bijan ran in, Brian Brzee got absolutely annihilated on a combo block, and that's when you kind of felt like the Falcons could win this game if they were getting that kind of push. And then when New Orleans needed a stop towards the end, it just didn't happen for them at all. Guys were getting sealed out on the edge. Everyone got hurt for them. They went all in on winning the division at like 9 wins this off season, and it's just not an admirable goal to shoot for. And if they don't do it, then definitely everybody deserves to be fired. And I feel like that's another team that could use a fresh start absolutely everywhere. Not that they've necessarily done anything like too crazy bad, or, you know, they do have the excuses that I articulated with all the injuries, but it's like this front office needs to fucking go, man. I mean, they're in a horrible spot. Like, you can't get $87 million below the cap for this. Like, that's the definition of a fireable offense for a GM. Like, I get that they did it to contend in the Breeze era to some extent, but they've continued to do it in the Derek Carr era. Like, get this guy Loomis. Loomis Ball is not, like, I want something different than Loomis Ball. They're
just a little bit worse every year, but their cap situation never gets significantly better. And it's easy to say bite the bullet, but like, how? Like, okay, like what should they do next year?
Yeah, they're like my family car, the old minivan that I got in 2006. It's like, you could bring it in. It's like the repair costs more than the car, and like, yeah, it runs. But like,
Theo out here with the Colin Cowherd.
They're an old.
I was going to say the same thing. You guys are
they're an old car. They cost $1 million just to like keep it running. It's like, dude, send it to the junkyard, bro. Like, I get that
they don't have like a bunch of guys where it's like, well, just cut him and just be bad for a year. That's not going to work. They have to restructure guys.
I know they do, but it's like, someone else deal with this, because if you let Loomis do it again, like, who knows? Like, I don't want to see how bad it can get. Like, and once it gets good, is it just going to be bad again? Like, I don't ever want to be in this situation ever. And it's like, that's kind of this guy's whole deal. Like, maybe if you kept him, he would like get the situation under control, and maybe he would, like, they have been good. He has been a good drafter in the past. Like, they have been a competitive team. And if you look at the win-loss record, it's not like Douglas up in New York where he has all the resources in the world and like hasn't won more than 6 games or something like that. It's not like that, but I just don't ever want to get to this spot. And it's like, dude, I don't know. I feel like you could just go on over the cap and be like, which one of these GMs has kind of fucked the team over the most? And it would be pretty easy to like point out the Saints.
Me personally,
even if they make the playoffs,
I do want to see how bad it can get.
I'm kind of. You're telling me you're not interested at all. I mean, sure.
Okay, maybe. I guess why not? It's not my team.
Yeah, it's like,
right.
If they go 0-17, I'm gonna have a hell of a day.
Dude, like,
you're too late. 15 years too late.
15 years.
You can't victory lap 0-17. They were in the playoffs that year, were they not?
Were they?
I think so. They didn't go 0-17.
They didn't.
Did they make the playoffs with? No, they almost made it. They didn't make the playoffs without Breeze, did they?
I don't think so. They did.
Who won that division? Yeah, I guess it's always been Brady, huh?
I think Tampa.
Well, when did you say they were going to go 0-17?
Oh, I said they were going to go 0-16, and then they changed the season to 17.
Yeah, Breeze was definitely still there at that point, and they definitely.
Okay.
Was Breeze there? I don't think Breeze was there when I said they would go winless. I think it was like the year after Breeze retired.
If they do go winless, you cannot victory lap tapes from the 16 game era. Come on.
Well, no, it was like the offseason that I said it, and then like a month later they announced a 17 game season.
Still, you can't victory lap it. I cannot victory lap the next time the Dolphins go 6-11.
I will victory lap it. You better believe.
Never wrong. Just really, really, really early.
Really early. Just insanely early. But if we want
You
to
should
move...
start, dude. You should totally start like victory lapping that stuff. Be like, 2 years ago, you said this team was
The Giants. The Giants one aged so well.
Oh my
Although they've won.
You've got to do that. You've got to like act like it's totally serious on Twitter and see what people.
I got cooked for saying the Giants couldn't win any games. Yeah, look at them now. I can't say shit about the Giants because 2 weeks ago I tweeted a picture of Caleb Williams in a Giants jersey and I said it's happening, and now they've won 2 straight.
Oh, so
how am I supposed to know though? Like, Tommy DeVito was their starting quarterback. Like, come on, man.
You should have known.
That one doesn't even count. So
we all look to you for Tommy DeVito analysis, and you failed.
Everybody
us.
does look to me. That's the problem. It's like
Tommy DeVito is the future. At least that's what Bengals said.
Yeah, I'm just giving my takes. It's not my fault that you guys all follow me and like all my stuff.
That's how I honestly feel sometimes, though. I feel like my takes are like, okay, I'm trying. It's gonna happen, man. Leave me alone.
I think it just makes it when I do get something right, if I'm fading someone at least, and I do get it right, it's like whoever made the mistake that I called should be fired on the spot. Because it's like if I can see it, then there's really no excuse. There's really no excuse. Like the Dalvin Cook thing. It's like, okay, my track record's bad, sure. But like if I get that right and you didn't, like that just like Theo Ash NFL could see it. It's like, come on, guys, you gotta gotta get me fired. You gotta be fired. Or the Quentin Johnston pick. It's like, okay, that one you gotta get out of here. But
the baseline for whether or not someone should, how good an NFL exec should be is Theo Ash NFL.
Yes, you can't make. If I call you out and I win, then you are bad. I think
lose.
That's
then Theo gets your job.
True.
That's the
Let me run the Jets. I've been on the money with the Jets. Zach Wilson, Dalvin Cook.
Leave a comment if you think we could run the Jets better.
I seriously think we could. If we could run it better, then
you're not an NFL fan if you don't think you could at least be like a better than bottom 5 GM.
Yeah, that's true. I certainly like they brought in Cobb, Lazard, Dalvin, Billy Turner, and Nathaniel Hackett this offseason. It's like surely I could do a better job than like bringing in all of Rodgers' incompetent friends.
Yes,
no doubt.
We'll load up the Madden franchise and we'll show them who's boss. But before we get into the Little Caesars game of the week, I do want to quickly talk about
the Browns
and the Broncos and how the Broncos they've won 5 straight now, definitely putting themselves in playoff contention. The Browns, they're as much as they can win any game, they can lose any game. They're super banged up right now. Myles Garrett got hurt today. Greg Newsome got cooked by Cortland Sutton all afternoon. DTR got fucking obliterated.
He got popped, dude.
That was the...
He wasn't doing so bad, too, either.
He was playing well. There were a lot of bad drops. Amari Cooper had a drop on a 2-point conversion attempt. Njoku had a drop on a touchdown.
He did.
And
a first down on a crossing route.
Just couldn't catch to the... Yeah, that throw was really nice.
Yeah, it
in
was.
Between 4 defenders, that was a really nice throw. I don't think Njoku thought he was going to throw it, if I'm being honest. It's like that Keenan Allen drop that Herbert had. He's like, I don't think he thought it was going to get there. But
yeah, it can be tough in those tight windows, but you gotta come down with it.
You gotta catch them. You get paid to do that, so yeah, you gotta come down with it. Yeah, the Browns just couldn't catch the breaks today. It was just really ugly loss. People are calling for Stefanski's head again. I don't think the play calling was bad. The execution was just complete and utter dog shit.
Situation is just...
Yeah, it's like, what are you supposed to do? They're like, why? And even the announcers, they're like, why are you throwing the ball on first down? I'm like, what do you want? It's like the looks are there. they have open guys. DTR's hitting them. They're just dropping it. Like, I don't know what you want them to do. So, yeah, it's just tough. But the Broncos played a really good game. They were
money on third down.
Oh my God. The Browns defense has been perfect on third down all year, and they crushed us. And I think they saw what the Steelers did. They killed us on trap. The Browns defense likes to play so fast, and they're just like, okay, we will just let you come through, and we're just going to go the other way. I mean, they're
an upfield penetrating offense, and the Broncos were able to move the ball on the ground pretty consistently with running backs not named Javonte Williams. And then when they were like, Russ didn't have like a huge game. I wasn't watching this one super, super closely, but at the end he had like 100 yards.
It wasn't a huge game, but when they asked him
when it was third down and they needed to move the sticks, like he came through, and then overall their rushing attack was quite good. And then when you've got, DTR on the other side, who didn't play bad, but then PJ Walker came in and kind of it
was horrible.
Kind of folded after that.
He was so bad. He fumbled like 3 times in a row.
But that can be a recipe. I mean, it has been for 6 weeks, and the Broncos are. I don't know if they're legit as in like Super Bowl legit, but can they be wild card legit? I mean, the Colts and the Steelers and the Browns are your current wild card teams, and it's like they're just as legit as those guys. So they saved the season and they turned it around, and they all deserve a lot of credit for that.
Yeah, I mean, between Cleveland, Houston, and Detroit, those are their 3 hardest remaining games, or those were Cleveland was one of them. They won that game. They got Houston next week.
They can beat Detroit.
They can beat Detroit. I think they can beat Houston too. Stroud's been really good at taking care of the ball this year. He's been real good at it. And Denver's gotten a ton of turnovers recently, so we'll kind of see how that matchup plays out. That'll probably be the difference maker, is who kind of wins the turnover battle there. Then they got the Chargers, Detroit, which, like you said, they can beat them. The Patriots, let's be real, they're beating them. That might be a lock. Might be a lock in 4 weeks. Mac Jones against the best turnover defense in the league. Yeah, bro.
We'll see if it's Mac Jones versus anybody anymore.
It's Mac Jones versus his job at this point. The Chargers again, and then the Raiders to end the year. Like, dog. I mean, does it get much more like beneficial for them? Yeah,
I mean, we'll see how it goes. So they've got their defense is locked in. They've allowed. Well, I saw that Bill Barnwell tweeted they allowed 70 versus Miami and an 80 since then. So
damn. That's
nice. We'll see how far they can go. I'm gonna stop saying they're not legit or anything like that. They've totally turned it around. They're well coached. Like, you got to give trading a first round pick for a coach has like a 100% success rate. And I do wonder if you see it more often, or because it seems to work. Bruce Arians was traded. John Gruden was traded and won a Super Bowl. Sean Payton now, let's see if they can make the playoffs. At any rate, he's better than Hackett was. And I think that coaches are super, super valuable. And, if Jamal Adams can go for 2 first-round picks, and like I'm offering first-round picks all the time for coaches, like I'd always be calling. What can we trade Michigan for Harbaugh? That's what I'd be wondering.
He's going to be in big trouble, I hope.
Just leave him to the NFL. What if he coaches the Panthers?
It's very possible. That totally could happen. You do? I don't know. I forgive him.
Yeah, that's
fair. It's like I can see that being a movie, like a comedy. It's like, okay, Harbaugh gets in trouble and they punish him, and it's like, well, you can do jail time or community service, and you got to coach this like upstart, sad little team. And then he's like, well, I'm only doing this for 1 year, and then I'm going back to Michigan. But then over the course of the season, he falls in love with the team, and they make the playoffs. And
Isn't this
I think
just
that'll
like the
happen.
story of like Gridiron Gang or like
Is that what happens?
Basically
It's
any
just a
sports
movie
or
that.
any sports movie ever. Take heed. I
Yeah.
don't even know how to pronounce. The guy who directed Jojo Rabbit and Thor Ragnarok literally has a movie out with that exact premise. I believe
soccer thing?
currently. Yeah.
Yeah. He could do that, but with the Carolina Panthers. That's my.
There's
opinion.
one more game to talk about.
one
The
more
game of
game.
the week,
the
and
Little
maybe
Caesars game
Yes.
of the week.
the Little Caesars game of the year. I think it's fair to say.
Oh my God,
It's up there.
Jalen Hurts. Is he better than Josh Allen? Twitter would suggest yes.
My quote tweets after what I tweeted around halftime would suggest yes.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I think Josh Allen balled out today. I know that he threw a pick. I thought that was an amazing play by Bradbury. Obviously one that Allen needs to see. Like, the guy came off his man. There was someone wide open. But, like, yeah, that was a bad moment. But how many big-time throws did he have? Like, the one touchdown to Diggs was ridiculous. And the juke on the I can't remember which touchdown it was for him. The third or fourth one was out of this world good. Like, just money throws really all game. His EPA per play was through the roof despite the pick, and I think that backs up what I saw. And they scored 30-something points. Like, he looked
Theo
very
be
back to
talking
me.
about the touchdown
Who
to
had a
Gabe
big
Davis.
Who had a big game today?
Not Gabe Davis. Oh my God, that last play. I don't know what he was thinking. There was no safety in the middle of the field. Just no. Why are you bending that back outside and making it a lower percentage throw? Obviously, it's a miscommunication. Maybe that's what's supposed to happen. I supremely doubt that he's supposed to run a corner route instead of like bending it towards the middle of the field, which would be the easier throw versus like a cover zero type of look like that. Instead, he's not where he needs to be at all and sells the Bills again. And I wish I never backed down from my Bills take. That's the one that got away because Von Miller is completely ineffective. Gabe Davis sucks, and they're missing the playoffs. Like, that's what I was afraid of, and that's what's happening. And I think Ken Dorsey was the scapegoat to a lot. You can say, like, oh, Joe Brady, he's under center running more. There's a little bit more motion. Like, sure, that's all well and good that he's pressing different buttons, I guess, and calling a little bit of different plays, but it's still the same shit. Ken Dorsey is perfectly capable of calling the last two games or having the success that they've had the last two games. Like, we've seen it a million times under Ken Dorsey, like a good offensive performance in the regular season from the Bills. It's just like Allen is good to turn it over once, and outside of Diggs, there's just not a lot going for the Bills right now, except for Leonard Floyd, who played for quite well. And I guess the defense in the first half was pretty money, but yeah, man, this was the type of game they could have afforded to lose if what happened earlier didn't happen, but it did happen. And now they've got a big uphill battle with a really difficult schedule. And
I don't disagree. I think they've had a tough year. I stand by they'll be the 6th seed prediction, and that things have just not broken their way. I mean, I think every game they've lost has been one score.
They're definitely like the best
dude.
6-6 team ever. But like the reason that they're 6-6
Wins
is
and
because
losses.
it's because people keep fucking up. So like how good are they really?
Right. No, I have a hard time disagreeing with that.
I think I saw a tweet from Twitter user Dirtbag Queer from 2022 where she said,
"Yes, I saw that same one.
I'm sick of Bills losing game of the year," and that was before they lost this game of the year. It's like, how many times do they have to be on the short end of these shootouts? They just don't quite have the juice of the top teams. And McDermott at the end of the fourth quarter, like 20 seconds left. It's like, bro, we saw with 13 seconds left or 18 seconds or whatever the hell it was, 17. Like, we saw a great quarterback drive down the field and beat you. And now you've got a quarterback and a timeout. And it's like, you're not going to make any kind of attempt to, like, I mean, all it takes is 2 plays, like 2 skinny posts, and the game is over, like done and over with. And like they're not even going to make any kind of attempt. It's a very Ryan Day-esque, some Ryan Day-esque decisions
they're
there.
Ohio State pill.
Ryan Day
They're
catching
Ohio State
pilled as hell.
strays today.
They're not stray.
He's
Fair enough,
catching
man.
unnecessary. He's getting shot. He's the target. He's in the sights. Nothing stray about it. He's got a cigarette in his mouth and blindfold over his eyes.
So true, man.
But the Eagles won, and obviously a ton of credit to Jalen Hurts and that whole offense for, obviously, as he always does, he has a slow heartbeat and he doesn't give a shit about anything, and he doesn't care.
He's tough, man.
He's a warrior and battled his way back and had an amazing second half. And shout out Jalen Carter for blocking a kick. And
Yeah.
And Rasul Douglas was awful in the badge towards the end of this game. He was getting picked on, and he let a pick go right through his hands and allowed a ton of completions. And then the effort from him and Micah Hyde on the last Jalen Hurts touchdown, they kind of eased up and let him run right through him. And that's why they're not Packers anymore, man.
Where do you go from here if you're the Bills?
I think it's I think you gotta
Is it new
probably
coaching?
fight. I think you gotta I think McDermott is Ryan Day pilled, and I think for the same reasons, it's like you have Josh Allen, like maximize him with the. It's okay that they're not establishing the ball on the ground. Like you don't have to fire Ken Dorsey because he's not running the ball enough or whatever. And when you're in the situations where like you have the opportunity to let him win the game, like let him do that opportunity. So I think a more aggressive coach would be good for them. And then I think something as simple as like draft a wide receiver that's good. Like there's a bunch of them in this class. Like Roma Dunze, that should be your target. Maybe Diggs demands a trade out. That could throw a lot of things for a loop. But if he doesn't, it's like I think just the simple addition of a guy like that could do a lot of things for this team. Josh Allen is an elite floor raiser. You're probably going to have a top 10 offense as long as he's around, no matter who's around him. You're probably going to be top 5 if you've got 2 good like wide receivers around him. Like I really think it can be about that simple. Like new coach, a better weapon on the outside to complement Diggs. Like the offense could be way more formidable than it is now. And as far as the defense goes, like I don't know if they'll win the Super Bowl. Like I do think there's a lot of work to be done, I guess, on that side of the ball. But like they could be right back in the AFC Championship, I think, any year. I don't think that they're very far away. I think as long as you've got Josh Allen, that window is pretty wide open, and you could always be back.
Yeah, I think I agree.
Or T. Higgins, something like that. Like
I think they're too far gone value-wise to be able to accept something like that. You got to draft a guy and hope for that because you're so in the end game now that trading picks for a guy you got to pay like that with the picks.
Well, if he's just a free agent.
Yeah, then you can think about it for sure. I don't know how they get the money, but I guess it can be really aggressive with restructuring if that's what they want to do.
Just know Gabe Davis is wide receiver too, man. Like he sucks, guys. Like he's not a wide receiver too. He had that one big game versus Kansas City. His resume outside of that is like legitimately horrible. Like I'm sorry. He was a 5th round pick. He didn't do much before that, and he hasn't done much after. Like it's as simple as that. And He's got talent. He's made some spectacular catches. He's big play Gabe or whatever. But like maybe in a wide receiver 3 spot, he could be super efficient and lead the league in yards per target with Josh Allen, like something like that. I think it could benefit everybody if there was just someone above him on a depth chart. But for him to be an integral part of your offense, I think is super rough. And the Eagles are amazing and they're really good. And the Bills, I think Sean McDermott does deserve a lot of credit for kind of flummoxing them in the first half. And they need Lane Johnson healthy because I don't like the backup right tackle very much at all. I don't think that he's like a very good backup even. So like that's something to watch. But man, they're without Goddard, without Lane to come away with a win like that. Like, yeah, we didn't learn much about the Eagles. They're pretty good.
Tier.
Yeah, I would pick them to win the Super Bowl. So
That's a very fair take. I think they're
take.
probably still the best team in the NFL.
Yeah, they're at least the most consistent, even though the 49ers have been great recently.
Because they have the most wins. I agree.
Yeah, I would say that's, like we said earlier, man. What's the only thing that matters? Winning football.
I mean, at the end of the day, it is.
So, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. We're not recapping the Sunday night game, although it's happening as we're recording this. I think the Ravens are up 13-3 last I checked.
3 points from the Chargers offense. I wonder if it's Herbert's fault. I'm looking at the RBSDM box score right now, and Herbert's EPA per play is suggesting that it actually might be his fault this time, guys.
No, this can't be.
We have not watched.
This can't be.
Every loss
that is back.
I'm sorry, Herbert bros. I do like Herbert, but it's
someone's got to counteract me, I guess.
I got to have one narrative I can win, So Herbert losing is probably.
You got to be a Brock Purdy MVP truther.
This is. I mean, okay. I know the game's not over. It's like halfway through the third. The Chargers have 6 first downs all game. They have 13 minutes time of possession. This is horrible. They're averaging what? I'm trying to find their yards per play 4.3, yards per pass 5.3, yards per rush 2.8. It's
not his fault.
Brutal. It is.
I'm sure there's been I'm sure there has been a drop that has been batted up into the air and taken back for a pick six. I just know it.
Something like that. This is ugly and gruesome in every single way I can imagine. But yet they're still in it. It's not over. So maybe they'll pull it out. Maybe they'll pull it out. But that's not what we were here to talk about. So that pretty much wraps things up. We'll be, of course, live for Monday Night Football as part of our bi-weekly Monday Night Football live stream. So make sure you tune into that on YouTube. We'll be live Tuesday as well to look at another NFL draft prospect. So make sure you tune into that on YouTube. And then we'll be back with another episode on Thursday morning. But until then, thank you all so much for tuning in. And until next time, we will catch you on the Flippity Flop.